Okay, can you hear me? Fantastic. Well, thank you, Carl. That was a great intro. And it was wonderful having you all here at our first in-person DapperCon, now part of KubeCon. So we're very proud that Dapr is part of CNCF as a whole. And my name is Mark Fussell. I'm a Dapr maintainer, a member of the Steering and Technical Committee, and also the CEO of Diagrid. And I'm thrilled to be here today to be able to talk to you about some of the trends that I've been seeing that's happening inside Dapr that I thought would be a good perspective around this. But before I get to that, I always think it's good to reflect quite a bit on the project goals. These are sort of the goals that actually drive the steering committee, the things that kind of keep us on the path to make sure that we understand where the project is going. And it's pretty important to realize that Dapr is a set of distributed systems APIs, and it's built around any language that can be used, consistent and portable set of interfaces, along with the fact that you can adopt the standards and basically use it deployed on any form of platform. So these kind of goals really to drive where we keep the project going. And you'll be surprised how someone comes along and goes, can you put a face recognition API into Dapr? And we're like, well, it doesn't quite fit into some of these things that we see inside these goals here. So I think it's good to kind of share and reflect on these. But most importantly to us, it's the role of the community and how the community has done so much for Dapr over the years. And when we look at Dapr, we see how it improves developer productivity, building these distributed systems applications. And the role of the community in terms of the contributions over the last year or 2 years has been incredible. And I think the graph that shows all of this is effectively the community contributions, the time that people take to donate their energy, their code, their input to the project. And whether that's donating code to some of the core runtime APIs or the hundreds of components that have been added, we're thrilled to see all this. With a growing Discord community getting up to new 5,000 members, and in the velocity report that CNCF published in August of this year, Dapr is now the 9th largest open source project inside CNCF itself. So it's kind of grown enormously. And this trend continues, and it reflects a lot on the contributions of everyone. And it's the thing that really drives us to kind of bring the project to success. And we're really pleased to see this. So let me touch on 3 trends that I see that I think really help define the project. The first of those is that Dapr is used in both Greenfield and Brownfield applications. And we see this happen in a multitude of ways. And really what we see is that there's a lot of organizations that have some existing code, and they move it into the cloud in some way, sticking it in some container and run it there. And then quite often they need to kind of modernize it in some way. And Dapr plays a role in 2 ways. One is that we see Dapr just literally run as a sidecar process next to their existing code. A number of times we see just the secrets management API, just because I'm trying to retrieve a secret from, in order to access a backend database, is phenomenal. And then, of course, you get to the point where they actually re-architect part of that as well and pull their application apart and actually take advantage of the Dapr APIs. And of course, then you get onto the full-fledged Greenfield application, built from scratch, with the sort of microservices cloud-native principles. So that's one trend. The next one that we get asked a lot about is, the APIs in Dapr, wow, I can now make my code portable across different platforms. I can even take products that I have today and put them into a platform that I ship on Edge and say to developers that's a consistent API. So we get a lot of people ask us, like, is there a path to standardization of these APIs? Because if there were, it would make our lives a lot easier. And I think the trend that's happening here, in the same way that Kubernetes brought everyone together on agreeing what a set of APIs were for hosting and running at the distributed system hosting layer, so we could all agree and move code between different cloud platforms. Dapr is doing the same thing at the application layer. And I think that's an important trend to kind of focus on, because if you can do that, then as the industry as a whole, everyone benefits from not only portability, but generally a consensus around these things. And I think this is the thing more than anything that people have been trying to find agreement over. But no one's ever decided to tackle that problem. And I think Dapr is trying to tackle that problem head on. And whether it turns out with the APIs they have today or not is another thing. But that's a goal that we need to really strive for, and I think it's important. So we have a sort of, if you look at Dapr today, in 1.0, we released 6 APIs. We added things like secrets, and in 1.4, 4.7, configuration API and distributed lock API. And excitingly, coming up, past the 1.10 release, we'll have APIs around workflow and document API. And I think this is kind of reflection of the actual project itself. The final trend that I think is very interesting is the internal developer platform. There's a lot of talk today about internal developer platforms and how it makes a particular organization be successful about what they produce. And a lot of the focus there still is on the ops and sort of running of those platforms. And what Dapr is doing is it's democratizing the ability to create these platforms. So effectively, what does that mean? You get a lot of organizations now who take some cloud or edge infrastructure, they build a platform on it with a set of criteria around security and compliance and governance. And then they have an ops team that actually develops this, as well as an SRE team that may help that run it. And then on top of that, they have a set of internal application teams who are building their applications on this platform. And before, these sort of platforms were the prelude of very well-funded, large financial organizations. And there was also often a difficulty of what was the API in terms of that needed to be produced for this. And Dapr is filling that role now to enable the multitude of other organizations to be able to produce their internal developer platform and have a consistent set of APIs on top of it all. So these are three trends that I think are very significant in Dapr. I think they're setting a path for where it's going. I think there are other ones. I'd love to hear your opinions that you see from this. But I think that overall, this is a very exciting time for what the project is doing. And I think when you look at the reflection that the APIs can grow and become a industry-wide direction for building these distributed applications, I think there's a lot of exciting times ahead for it all. So I just want to say thank you. And it was amazing to be able to hear and talk to you and hear all your stories today about how Dapr helps you be successful in the projects you're working on. So thank you.